Hey everyone, so this video today I'm going to explain weight loss through the method of calorie counting. So hopefully this gives you an exact idea of how weight loss happens and the components that are involved in calorie counting. So first things first, I'm not going to get into what calories are, you can look that up on your own, but I'm going to explain what you need to target given your goal weight on every day first. So let's say you're a 200-pound person and your goal weight is 170. So what you do is you times 170 by 10. So it's just goal weight 170 times 10, and that's going to equal your target for 1700. Now this is a pretty aggressive target. Times 10 is pretty aggressive. If you want a little bit higher calories, you can times it by 12. But for the most part, times 10 works great. So we're going to go with this scenario that this is a 200-pound person. They're looking to get down to 170. They're targeting 1700 calories. You don't have to necessarily move in those sort of increments too. This is where a bit of an art is. Like if you're 200 pounds, you could say, oh, I'm going to target 190 first. And then you're going to target 190 times 10 in 1900. And then when you get to the 190, then you target 180, right? And you move in this more step ladder fashion. I don't tend to go over 30 pounds for the goal. Like if you're 300 pounds and your goal is 210, right? That's a huge difference between what a 300 pounds person's currently eating. Get what I mean? So it's how far into how low the calories want to go. So I think it's fine to just go the times 10 with a 30-pound goal increment, but you can do less if you want to. Depends how aggressive you want to be. Okay, so let's move on from that. First things first here. So we're going to do that 170. That's assuming your calories in here are 1700. Okay, just like that. All right, so that's your calories in. Now I'm going to draw here your calories out. And your calories out needs to be bigger than your calories in for weight loss. All right, so this distance here, right, this needs to be larger. So let's say this is 2500 calories out, right? So this is how much you're burning. This is how much you're consuming. This difference here is of 800, right? So you're burning 800 more than you take in on any given day. Make sense? Right. So the next thing you need to know is 1 pound of body fat equals 3,500 calories. Okay. So if we're burning 800 per day, how long will it take us to do 3,500? 4.3 days, roughly. 4.375 rounded up. So you will lose 1 pound every 4.3 days. Pretty straightforward, right? So 800 deficit, right? Burning more, eating less, 800 deficit, 4.3 days, lose a pound. Pretty straightforward. So let's go into the components now for a couple issues first with calories in. This is what you need to know on these two big bars. The problem with calories in and calorie counting is you have to rely on your own weighing of food and your own perception of how much you had, and you have to rely on the calorie tracker being accurate. All of those things can be variable. So the problem with calorie counting is you might be thinking you're eating 1700 and you could easily be eating 2200 and you're just not aware. Slight little difference, right? But the difference between that is like if you were actually eating 2200 here, if you're eating 2200 here, your deficit's now very small. It's only going to be, what, 300? So you might have a problem when you're dealing with calories in, that you're measuring it wrong. That's the big one. That's the problem with calories in. The other big thing is if you're not eating high satisfaction meals, you will not be able to stick to the 1700. You'll find that the number to really lose weight consistently every day is a number that's typically just under your comfort level, right? So you feel like you're deprived. So the only way to actually get away with 1700 calorie eating, or in this case, 200 pounds, losing down to 170, that's targeting 1700, is if the foods are deeply satisfying. So they have to be constructed in an exact way. If they're not constructed in that way, you're going to have binge episodes, right, on a weekend, and this is going to shoot up to 3,000, and you're going to undo the entire week of work. If you're only losing 800 per day, let's say it's much less of a deficit, it's only 300. Well, and then you've just gone up 1,300 here. You've just wiped out 4 days, right? So that's what you have to keep in mind about calories in, is that you can really screw it up, right? So the trick is probably actually to eat a little bit higher, maybe around 2,000, high satisfaction, and then really focus on this one, really focus on the calories out. So I'm just going to clear this up again and go with calories out. So calories out is where all the magic happens in my mind. Calories in, it gets all the focus, all these diets, keto diets, vegan diets, everything. You're not going to get much variance. It's just going to be in this box usually where you need to be, right, to lose the weight. But if calories out aren't healthy, you're not losing anything. So calories out has 3 components. I'm going to try to show it in the components of their relative weighting when it comes to calories. So the first is BMR. It's about here. It's like times 10 of your goal weight. That's usually what your BMR. So BMR stands for your basal metabolic rate. It's your base calorie burning rate. Me just sitting at rest right now, my organs are working, my brain's working, my nervous system is working, my muscles are sitting at rest, but they're still working, they're using energy. That's called your BMR, basal metabolic rate. It's usually equal to that times 10 number, 1700. It's around here. So if you're a 200-pound person, you're probably running about 1700 BMR, let's just say. BMR has another component also that is very, very large and can really be modified. I would say it's about half. It's your heating system. Okay, the particular type of fat cell that you have that burns energy, it doesn't store it. So you have fat cells that are like containers where you fill them up and then you lock them away and they're full. But it also has containers that incinerate it, right? If I'm using like a waste facility example, right? You can fill up your containers, or a container can incinerate it, right? The heating system incinerates energy and turns it into, well, it doesn't incinerate it, but just to give the example, but it turns it into heat. Takes calories and turns it into heat. So it's the only time in your body where you don't have to do some sort of an effort, like you got to go walking to burn calories, or you got to do this. Heating will burn calories by sitting at rest. Okay. Now this system can become impaired. So the idea is that burns between, or the theory is that it burns between 500 and 1200 calories. They don't really know. It's different with each people, but they know when it's impaired, it's burning like sub 500. So it's like 300 calories. So if this was 1700. Now let's just say so this was 700 calories for heating. An unhealthy person would be at 350. So that would put it right here. So their heating only is taking up this amount. That's going to drop calories out from the top here to there, right? So we've lost a bit. We've lost calories out because the heating system isn't working right. I'll get into that more in a minute. So then the next piece, it's the next big one, and it's very variable. Okay, this is called NEAT. It's NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Non-exercise activity, simplest thing. So that's like steps. The best thing to know is like steps, right? And steps can go all over the place. So your steps could be a sedentary person. They could be sitting at right here. The NEAT is it's only this big, right? That's like 2,000 steps a day. NEAT could be really large. Let's say 12,000. Okay, so this is like NEAT there. This is NEAT there, 12,000. This is 2,000. But you can also have a NEAT that's like huge. This is say 25,000 steps, right? Which is hard to do. It takes a lot of work. You'll have like sore hips and blisters doing that. But you get used to it. You can actually, a lot of people can do it consistently. But just on average, people are around 2,000 to 10,000, 12,000, around there. So then the last piece is exercise. And that's usually 300 to 500, unless you do some really crazy stuff like you're shooting 700 to 1,000. Problem with that is when you do too much of this, it's going to then translate over to hunger, and it's going to shoot this up 200, 300. So this one is always, everyone puts all the focus on this one, right? But that's the one that actually is the least impact on your weight loss. It actually causes you the most issues because it makes you bloody hungry. Okay, so that's why I'm a firm believer in a certain way of exercising with intensity. Really high heart rate stuff, you're going to find that it's going to make you hungry if you burn too many calories. So 300 to 500 is the magic spot for like lifting, weight training. And then if you really, really, really want to burn off fat faster without affecting your calories in, it's going to be, all your energy should be going to steps. So that gives you an example. So if a person has healthy heating, BMR is just sort of fixed. You can't really change it. You can add more muscle, but that's about it. But NEAT's very variable, and exercise. So let's say this person is, it's got a NEAT of, let's say they did 10,000 steps. It's going to be plus 750 on top of the 1,700 BMR, and then exercise is, let's just say it's 350. Make these numbers, so 1,100 is, so they're shooting at 2,800 here. And then 1,700, and this person's losing 900. In a 900 deficit, where they're burning 900, so if we go back to the 3,500 and divide it by 900, 3.8 days now, we're losing 1 pound. This is a very healthy situation, right? It's assuming that they don't have massive binge episodes on the weekend, etc., right? So they're losing weight pretty quick. This assumes that the heating system is not impaired. This assumes that the NEAT is healthy, right? And they're actually getting exercise. So let's go through scenarios where those are unhealthy. So there's 4 of them. So let's assume there's these 4. So you have 4. The first one is a sedentary lifestyle. So redoing this, how that's going to impact us, right? We're going to have, normal BMR, the NEAT is here. In this case, sedentary. So I'm thinking of a person that, like I've just seen it from clients, this is usually around 2,000. Like if you're sitting at a desk job all day and you go home and you want to not watch Netflix, you're doing 2,000 steps a day. 2,000 steps a day, you're looking at only 150 burned here. So that puts this here. Just delete this. So BMR's there, and then NEAT is there. You're not having a workout, right? So in this case, it is very, very, very difficult to lose weight. If you're able to actually eat 1,700, you're maybe at, this would be at 1,900, right? 1,900. So you got this slight deficit of 200, right? But sedentary days, they usually have these elements of boredom, right? It's watching Netflix or it's at work. So it's very difficult to get to 1,700 unless you're a busy person. If you notice that, if you're out walking a lot, it's very difficult to eat like this controlled way. So you're at higher risk of being at, 2,000, 2,200. So sedentary, very, very difficult to lose weight because the slightest change of your eating to the upside and you're done. And throw in a bit of stress, throw in a bit of whatever, and this could be a big binge day, right? And because this is so low overall, almost any slight increase in eating wrecks your weight loss. So let's get the specific on that. Let's say they just a simple change. They're sedentary at 2,000. Their calories out 2,000, and they're eating 2,200 because they're just a little bit of hunger, right? So they're in a gain of 200 per day. Just to give you an example. So every 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, they're gaining a pound. So sedentary lifestyle, every 2.5 weeks, you're gaining a pound. 52 weeks in a year divided by 2.5 pound a week. It's 20 pounds, 21 pounds a year, sedentary life, right? That's assuming no binging and no drinking. Throw drinking on top of it, you're easily 30, 40 pounds gain a year just because of the sedentary life, right? So this is a dangerous scenario. The sedentary lifestyle is dangerous. You have to recreate a healthy NEAT, right? You have to get that back to get these numbers back. So the next scenario is stress. So stress is interesting because stress affects it always affects 2, right? Just even like sedentary. So your calories in, let's say you're targeting that 1,700 again, and the calories out here. So stress has an effect on cortisol. Cortisol releases sugar into your bloodstream or releases stored sugar for rapid pickup. The idea of stress is that you're under some sort of acute stress in the moment, like a tiger coming after you or something. That's the design of the stress system. But you're in a stress system because of like a chronic condition, meaning worry at work, worry about your financial system, your mortgage, something of that nature. So it's releasing sugar all the time and messing with your blood sugar levels and messing with your insulin levels, which ultimately messing with your hunger and satiety levels. So what happens is just generally under a stress event, you will be eating more. So in this case, normally 1,700, you'll probably be eating somewhere around this, right? 2,200, 2,400. So on stress eating, even if you're trying to target 1,700, your general instinct and your intuitive where you want to be eating is going to be around here. And that's where you're going to end up if you look at it over time. If you look at it over the week, you're going to be around there, right? Now, the other big problem is that stress affects your desire to take action. It only wants to ruminate and worry about the problem and focus on the problem. It doesn't want to focus on steps. It doesn't want to focus on workouts. That's what you need when you're feeling a little better or your mind is able to take on those things. So in this case, your NEAT will be lower. Let's say your BMR is whatever the same. I'm assuming you don't have a heating system impairment, which I'll get to in a minute. But you might only be coming 3,000, 4,000 steps. You're just under, right? So stress, you can see the problem here. Calories aren't big enough, and stress, you'll be either right on the line every day. If you're eating, right, the first thing that goes in stress is you'll be losing weight if you can do this, if you can stick to it. But if you're going into these levels, you're going to be just roughly the same, right? But stress can also be really bad, and stress can lead then to drinking, which then really shoots this up large. So this is a real wild card of what this is going to look like, right? And that's the challenge. And stress is so bad that if you're actually counting your calories, you will not count them. like stress stops all, what would it be, like meticulous behaviors, those all get canceled and you just go on how you feel. So it's almost impossible in a stress event that your steps aren't going to be low here and your food's going to be increasing quite a bit. Next one's drinking. Drinking is a two-part problem. The first is just the calorie cost of drinking. So let's say you're at the 1700, right? Let's say the first day you actually worked out, you did everything, you're healthy, right? So the BMR's here, the neat's here, and you had workout, right? So 1700. So normally, and this is going to be coming in, let's say 2500. Normally you're working well, everything's good, but then you have a bottle of wine, and bottle of wine's 750. 750 on that's going to be roughly 2500. So a bottle of wine X's out any weight loss on the day, right? But the problem is that drinking often, or it increases food reward. So particularly if you're social or there's availability of food, you're at a party, you're going to be adding more food on top of this. So it's not just sitting at the nice 1700. You may have been able to accomplish that before you went out drinking in the evening or wherever. But as soon as after you drink, increasing food reward, you're going to add this other piece of, usually, right? So let's just to say that that's another 500. So you're going to be plus 500 calories on the day of drinking. Not bad, right? Let's say you don't do that all the time. You're not going to gain much, but it's actually the next day, which is the hangover. That's where all the trouble. Okay. So usually you have increased food reward. You didn't sleep properly because alcohol inhibits REM sleep. So your cortisol level, your melatonin levels probably didn't reset properly. So you wake up in the morning with increased what's called ghrelin. Ghrelin, it's a hormone that's the hormone that makes you feel the feeling in your stomach. So if you were targeting 1700, ghrelin will shoot you again up to that. Well, what's a night? What's like the hangover day of drinking? It's usually Denny's. It's usually really like you want greasy, carby, fat carbs. You want everything, and you don't have any of the willpower to say no. So this can be some of the biggest eatings that you can do is on hangover days. And you can eat all day, and you can eat chips, and you can eat whatever's available, right? You just don't care. All those pieces of really trying to be disciplined and all that stuff will be gone. So I would put drinking days at 3000, and then the other problem is that on drinking days, people don't move much. So the steps are low and they don't work out. So this might be 2200, 2400, 2200, let's say. So this is going to be plus 800 on that day. But this could be bigger. And the other thing, one bottle of wine. Well, what if you have two? What if you have shots? Do you get what I mean? You can have, I'm trying way into the other one. You could have 4,000, you could have 5,000 calorie days by drinking, right? And then the next day, 3,000, you might shoot over again. What if you drink 2 days in a row? Okay, so the video cut out. I was just finishing up the drinking section. So for the next big one, I'd written this because the video had continued, but it didn't end up recording, but I've been talking about bad sleep. So the big reason is we have a lot of blue light pollution these days. So like this screen, for instance, or this iPad, when you're using that at night, it mimics the blue sky, which makes you think it's daylight. It makes your body think it's daylight, which inhibits your melatonin cycle. If your melatonin cycle is inhibited, it won't reset the other hormones in your body properly. Melatonin is like your big internal clock that controls all the other hormones, from cortisol, from hunger hormones, etc. Right? So the big thing that bad sleep does, I wrote a couple other things. Daylight savings really screws people up. And I noticed a lot of weight gain after daylight savings time, and people just have a really bad idea of when to go to sleep, right? So the time you need to be going is around 8 to 9, and people are commonly around 9 to 10, 10 to 11, right? Getting up early because of stress and other things. So it's just not ideal. But the big thing is that what happens when your melatonin doesn't reset all these hormones properly is that you wake up without a reset ghrelin. So ghrelin's high in the evening. That's why we like to have big dinners in the evening. But if it doesn't reset properly, that hunger from dinner, even if you had dinner, will continue on until the morning. So you'll have high ghrelin in the morning. So what that means is if you're targeting that 1700, it's going to be ghrelin induced quite a bit higher, right? And bad sleep also affects the feeling of doing like steps or working out. So those are going to be low in the day, right? So typically on bad sleep days, you'll be running a surplus of 300 to 500 calories, which means you'll be gaining weight about 1 pound every seven days or so. Just to give you an idea. So bad sleep is sort of the underlying condition. Like bad sleep is what drinking really screws up, right? Stress really screws it up. But the basic thing, being sedentary, the basic problem of calories out, stress, the basic problem of eating too much, and then bad sleep, the basic problem of ghrelin too much, right? And then the effect on calories out. You start adding all these up because most people have a combination of these, and that's the reason why they're just gaining weight. So like the different scenarios, you're gaining 1 pound every 7 days with bad sleep. You're gaining tons of weight if you're drinking, right? The drinking is just unbelievable potential for weight gain. And then you've got sedentary, you're gaining a pound every 2.5 weeks, right? Yeah, so these scenarios are what you have to deal with. They're more important than nutrition. Like everyone focuses on diets, I need to go keto or I need to go vegan or I need to whatever, right? But the problem is lifestyle design. If you have bad sleep, stress, you drink too much, and you're sedentary, you have a lifestyle design problem. Your weight gain problems are from the design of your life. You need to address them. Otherwise, this won't change. You can make deprivation periods where you eat the perfect diet, period of time, whatever, and you lose a bit of weight. But the second you go back to this natural life pressures on you, bad sleep, stress, you just gain it all back rapidly. So I think that covers it all. That should give you a really good idea of the true problem. It's not what everyone thinks it is, right? Oh, you need to eat this thing and these things are bad, or don't eat these. Like, it's very, very minor part of the problem. This is the major problem. Hope you find that useful.